I will make sure that the transaction deadline gets noted as the trade deadline coming up in the
Yeah,
middle of the
exactly.
season.
We're not doing the full Jay Onrait and everything else shows. We're not doing the whole thing from the bathrooms from 9 a.m. onward. Sorry, just
You
not
don't want
happening.
you don't want to do an 8-hour live show on here?
I don't. Well, unless we're playing MLB The Show or something in the background, I don't know.
Well, still yet no shortage of things happening around the IBL as we get how many days left until the IBL season, Neil?
Well, if we're releasing this on Tuesday, it is 75 days to be exact till May 11th kicks off Mother's Day. 2 games scheduled on the Intercounty website as far as going officially games, but you're going to have some school day games before then even. I think there's a school day game actually on May 2nd to start things off. London's playing Hamilton, I do believe then. So
Yeah, of course,
it's
those
going
are
to be
just
a quick
exhibition
early one.
games.
Yeah, they're exhibition games, but I think yeah, it's just like everybody's just chomping at the bit, wanting to get going here. You can just see it. If you talk to teams, you talk to players, they're like going, they look outside and they go, okay, we got to melt the snow somehow. Let's go play some baseball.
Well, it's already starting to feel like it's melting right now with the sun. I believe I was reading it was +5 this afternoon as we record this on the Monday evening. Definitely a switch from the torrential, snowstorm that we had about a week ago.
This the snowmageddon that didn't want to end.
3 straight days of snow. I think it was almost a record even too. And I know I gotta work out. How about you?
My back's feeling places I never felt before. Let's put it that way.
Well, it's a workout for us, and I know many baseball players are working out and working out their signatures as they sign on the dotted line as we get closer to the IBL season. A lot of faces going to new places, a lot of faces that are returning to some familiar stomping grounds. So, yeah, a lot of signings in the last few weeks, and let's get right down into it. And I think I really want to start with the biggest signing of them all. We're going to start with the Guelph Royals, and I really feel like what they just added to their lineup is going to put them in contention to return to the IBL final and possibly even win it. Liam Wilson is now a member of the Guelph Royals.
Of course, Liam Wilson was a 3-time All-Star with the Kitchener Panthers, and I think yeah, it's just a huge acquisition. It takes care of that right side of the infield now. He can play first base. He'd be the DH. And it still asks the question, yeah, there's still that Josh Garton issue hasn't been resolved yet. I think I could see Garton playing, not maybe committing to the full season, but I could definitely see him, getting the itch, getting the urge to play probably about half the season, maybe 18 games. Maybe he only plays home games. And it just has some fun this summer.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things where, yes, you're taking up a card, but at least you're probably going to sign the guy, I would assume, before the season. And then if you
Yeah.
get to a point where he's not playing enough and we get to the transaction deadline and he makes the decision of, what, I'm good, we can wipe it out, and then you can fill that card with somebody else.
Oh, exactly. And I think, Dino Romello and company now, of course, they got Adam Fanjoy. Ryan Aiken is now the assistant GM as well. I think they're still working the phones. They're still working their contacts. I expect to see them. They're probably going to turn a couple more heads here before everything is said and done. And this, of course, the Royals usually traditionally don't start announcing the roster until about mid-February, and they're pretty much on the same schedule as far as that goes right now. Of course, they've got Jacob Cush, Connor Morrow, now both in the fold. And of course, now, with Liam Wilson officially a member of the Guelph Royals, of course, you and I, we thought it was going to happen last year, and it just didn't. Just unfortunately, they didn't get it worked out, and everything else. So he sat out the year, and he used it. He elected to go wherever he wanted to. He was able to sign wherever he wanted to, and he chose Guelph after all that.
Yeah, and you think about another guy, Andy Leader, who has not yet signed for 2025. I'd imagine that that'll be coming down the pipe at some points because there's a
I
lot
would
of
think it's
baseball
probably
left.
coming pretty. Yeah, I would think it's coming soon. And again, and the Guelph media and everything else, they just like to they stage things out certain points here, and they're just not trying to compete with the Guelph Storm too, because the Storm's season, I guess, is wrapping up very shortly. Playoffs will be starting quickly around the bend there too. So yeah, they don't want to,
Well, that's
not they only
that's
taking a
if
10.
they make the playoffs. There's still something out there. They're not in the postseason conversation at this point. There is still a chance. There is still a chance they get into eighth place. They have been picking things up as of late, but
Yeah,
we'll have to see what'll happen in their season as that'll wrap up toward the end of March. So there's still a bit of time left.
yeah, oh exactly. And then the Royals be in full swing by that point, anyways, as far as names and everything else.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
sure.
Next up, let's touch on the London majors, and I think what they have also been able to do. We didn't actually get to this before our last podcast, and I might have
Yeah,
gotten an earful. So, yeah,
from our
rightfully
dear friend
so.
Matt.
I told our dear friend Matt that we would get this off the hop near the
Yep,
front of this episode, but we had to touch on Liam and Guelph first. I feel like that
yeah.
made some pretty big made a pretty big splash in the last 24 hours, but it's not to discount the contributions that a guy like Kyle Maves can make to the London Majors lineup, and maybe take me through that transaction and Kyle Maves moving over from the defending IBL champions to the Forest City in London.
Whereas Mays can play, he's a utility player. He can play both the outfield, play the infield as well. He's gonna challenge for playing time in the infield, and Roop's gonna have a nice problem to have. He's gonna have a lot of guys that can play the infield and also can play the outfield. So he's gonna have guys fighting for positions at least in the first little bit, anyways, and trying to get some more playing time. So I think that'll definitely help with their situation. And of course, they lose the rookie of the year in Caden Cardoso for the Ottawa Titans. So they're looking for another bat in the lineup that can come in and have a little bit of experience.
And other transactions they have made, another key one to really look at is right on the mound.
Yep.
Jose is returning right back.
He is, and I just hope. I know he was battling some injuries in the later half. He wasn't able to go in the postseason for them, but hopefully he's back to being healthy and everything else, and he gets him back to be his dominant self like he was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, even, and just help out with London Majors and take a little bit of the load off the pitching staff.
Jose Arias is the name. Don't wear it out, folks. It's going to be a pretty big name to keep an eye on throughout the 2025 IBL season. They've also added, re-added Jared Lund, Verhoeven,
Yep.
Jonathan Henry comes up on board as well. Josh Niles. Roop's been keeping busy working those phones, and a lot of
Yep.
guys that also are showing that loyalty to the London majors, and coming back year after year.
Well, plus, don't forget Colby Ring just re-signed this morning as well.
Yep.
So, yep, of course, they got him as part of the. I guess we're actually allowed to call it trades now. As long as the teams
Really?
call them trades, we're actually allowed to call them trades now. At least that's what I got told the other day. So, I'm going with it.
All right.
As long as the teams announce them as trades, as long as both teams announce them as trades, we're calling them trades.
All right. Duly noted. I will make sure that the transaction deadline gets noted as the trade deadline coming up in the
Yeah,
middle of the
exactly.
season.
We're not doing the full Jay Onright and everything else shows. We're not doing the whole thing from the bathrooms from 9 a.m. onward. Sorry, just
You
not
don't want
happening.
you don't want to do an 8-hour live show on here?
I don't. Well, unless we're playing MLB The Show or something in the background, I don't know.
Get some retired stars and just do a tournament. Oh, by the way, here's this guy's getting
By
traded
the way,
over
so
to the new
somebody,
team.
someone so just signed with you. Yeah,
Are you a big
because it was weird.
are you big
Because 2 years.
as a show guy, or
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm decent. I'm decent at it. I'm not great at it. Like, I'm not gonna win any awards or anything. I do decently. I can handle myself an all-star and a legend. Sometimes it depends who I'm playing against, but yeah, I can handle myself.
okay?
But yeah, like 2 years ago, the trade deadline was, well, the signing deadline was insane.
Yeah.
Hamilton pulled off a million things right at the end. Last year, it seemed pretty subdued. Everybody made their moves beforehand. So this year, I don't know. I guess it's really going to depend on what these rosters shape into by that time. Who's hurt, who's banged up, who's not at that level where they think they can, in that second half, get in there and, I don't know, take some names, and make some changes there. But it's going to be hard to see because I do believe how the thing is. It's the last Monday in July. So the All Star game will be the 21st. I think that's the month. The Sunday's the 21st. It's in there the 20th. I gotta look at the calendar, but yeah, it's like,
Somewhere around there.
yeah, it's around there. So it's the week after. So you're gonna have 1 week after the All Star break, the All Star game to finalize those rosters. And it's going to be interesting. A lot of teams. I was surprised. Welland's actually filled their fifth their import spots. Welland usually is one of those teams that will wait, but they're not waiting this year. They're looking, okay, we're going all in. We're getting it. We're investing in these five guys. Plus, they've just been going crazy. And we'll get touching on those guys, I guess, a little bit here too. But yeah, they've been no slouches this offseason either.
Not at all. Let's move over to the defending IBL champions, and well, obviously they've made a lot of their moves early on in the transaction season.
Yep.
They have been quiet a little bit as of late. What are you hearing out of the Baycats camp as of late?
I think the roster is pretty close to being set, but of course they've got some guys that are gonna get signed with the Titans or at least get a tryout with the Titans. So they haven't come off the roster officially yet. There's a couple of guys that are still there, but it's just like I think Josh Matlow is pretty much locked in the team as far as that stuff goes. And of course, we're hoping to get Ryan Riojo on the show next week, so maybe we'll get a little more inside scoop as far as that stuff goes too.
That's right. Yes, look forward to that as Ryan Rio joins us on the program, and he's got a lot of baseball knowledge that I'm really looking forward to picking his brain on.
Awesome. Yep. But yeah,
Up,
it's like as far as Barry, I think they're pretty much they're set right now. They're just looking to make sure everything they don't lose anybody else before they have to make a move here.
let's move over to the Welland Jackfish now. The most recent signing for them on the transaction page as of this taping is, Brandon Underhill getting added on to the mound. But they have made some recent moves as of late to even before that. Brandon Markland, we've touched on in the past. Guys like Brandon Luther, Anthony Porchelato. What are we hearing out of the Welland Jackfish as of late?
They're definitely getting their, like I said, they're not getting the ducks in the row at the pond, but they're definitely getting their fish in the row. The barrel's starting to fill up here, so it's gonna be a very very good team. Brian Esri is gonna have a difficult time setting the lineup like he does usually every year, because Jason McKay stocks the cupboards every year. Does a great job of it, and sometimes maybe he doesn't get the credit he deserves.
Hey, they have trouble setting the lineup each night with the amount of talent they have, but I will give them credit. They are one of those teams that I look forward to having show up at the visiting ballparks whenever I'm calling a game because they usually have the lineup in hand as they are pulling up
Oh,
in the bus. It is the best thing in the
oh,
world.
well, Brian usually comes up there, taps you on the shoulder, talks for you with about 5 minutes, and is like, "Yeah, everything else," and just asks about everything else. But oh, by the way, here's the lineup. Here
Yep.
you go. Like you don't have any problems whatsoever with that. Like it's just how he is.
Yep.
He's just so organized, and I think they just have everything that far prepped out as far as things go. So it's just pretty much okay. Let's stick to the script, then let's go. And these
And
guys know it.
they have all their ducks in a row, or the school is in session, if you will.
At the
Yeah,
school, I like that one. The school's
yeah,
in
the school
session.
is
There
in
we go.
session.
Yep.
We'll see if our director of fun will use the school term, maybe on the school, maybe a school day game in Welland, and they can kind of fit that in with.
There is a school day game in Welland. Yeah, there is a school day game in Welland. I think they're playing Hamilton. Hamilton, London, Chatham, Kent. Everybody's having pretty much got school games going now. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
gonna be
if you used
interesting.
the pun out there in Welland, by the way, for the school day game, I accept no royalties on this. You're good.
You're good.
Up next, let's move over to the Kitchener Panthers, who, it seems like 50% of their lineup's going to be brand new this season based on some of the signings that we have seen as of late. Um, Yoshi Ishihara getting signed on most recently for the Kitchener Panthers. And yeah, there's a lot buzzing in Kitchener land, I
There's
can
a
tell you
yeah.
that
It's
much.
just as far as the head turners and everything else. It's just like okay, there's wasn't sure which direction they were going the off season because of course, like you said, it's a new regime coming in. Guys wanting to make their mark, and other guys just realizing, hey, maybe the intercounty is not my thing this summer. Guys, you got Tyler Henriquez getting, I guess, released, but again, it could just be he's decided, okay, I'm going to stay down in the States this summer, and it just made more sense for them to release him. I'm not sure what's going on in that situation. He's off to a great start down in college too right now, so some pretty big numbers for him. So maybe it might be he's looking, maybe it might be thinking draft or at least the draft school, the draft league or something in this summer. We'll see.
Yeah, and we've seen guys in the past make that transition as well, and it's all the power to them for giving themselves a shot to advance their baseball careers.
No question.
Yeah, and you go down the list. Nicholas Cairo's getting added in. Owen McNeil, Jorge De La Cruz, who was part of that Andy Leader deal last season, re-signs with the team, as well as Danny Garcia earlier on in the transaction period.
Yep.
But another big key that they have added here as of late is to their coaching staff,
Yep.
and
And I think those two gentlemen coming in, Pete and I think Alejandro. No, it's not Alejandro.
Alberto Gonzalez, I believe.
Alberto. Sorry. Yeah, both guys have got a lot of experience. Like Pete I think he's at UConn. He's an assistant coach there. He's going to be the pitching coach, and then Alejandro is taking over as the hitting coach and everything else, and it's just going to be helping these guys out.
Yeah, and I
Alberto,
mean
sorry.
they bring such a pedigree to them. I mean Gonzalez, he was the assistant hitting coach for the Gurriel brothers. Has also worked as a support coach for the Cuban national team at some point in his career too. There's a lot of
Yeah,
pedigree in behind there. I mean, Kiefer, he was helping out as the baseball coach and strength coach at UConn Avery Point for a long, long time, going back to the 1980s. There's and the guys that he has helped along the way. I mean, Pete Walker, John McDonald, Rajai Davis all played for the Blue Jays at one point, and he helped them
yeah.
along the way. So there's not only you're getting a lot of these new guys getting put into the system, but at the same time too, you're complementing that with some good coaching at the same time too. So that's only going to lead to a positive. The one thing that's going to be really key here this summer, and it's been the sticking point for Panthers fans for the last few seasons is, you live by the sword and you die by the sword. And by that, I mean home runs. Home runs have
Yeah.
come at a premium in Jack Couch Park, but for the last couple of years, the power has shifted to the opposition because they love hitting in
Oh,
Jack Couch
exactly.
Park, and it's the opposition that's getting the vast majority of that success by hitting the long bomb, and that has
Hmm.
contributed to a lot of these, some of these blowout games. So the fact of the matter is, you're probably not going to be able to keep the ball into the ballpark every single game per se, but you have to match those home runs with home runs of your own, and
Yeah.
maybe at the same time to play a little bit of small ball. And some of these new guys will have to see if they can kind of keep up with the opposition in terms of providing that offense.
Oh, exactly. And it's going to be interesting to see as you talk to some of these guys as they start coming into the league here, and they come into Kitchener and their first time on the mound at Jack Couch Park is going to be like, okay, wow, all right, this is a little different. The ball definitely does sail out of here in the weird places. And who knows? Maybe that when that new video board goes up in left field or something, maybe it will cut down the wind or something, keep a couple more balls in the yard.
Well, I can tell you that Jack Couch is going to look a little bit different this summer, but we'll have more on that as we get closer to the season, as some of these changes end up getting put into effect. Let's move over now to Chatham Kent, and you wanted to touch on just some of the management that they have started to put into place, and they have added a
Yeah,
new manager onto
yeah,
into their program.
exactly. So Gil Rondon takes over. He was the pitching coach last year. He takes over for Dan Gorman as far as that and everything else. And I think that was just an organizational change. I think I heard some rumors that Dan wasn't coming back earlier, but Again, I don't think it was anything that Dan had done or anything. I think it might have just been it might have just been a distance thing or a travel distance, or might have been a health thing too. So, with Dan, and I hope everything's okay, and I wish him the best in whatever he's doing. He was an absolute delight to talk to off the field as far as stuff goes, and he was always quite the animated manager down there in various comments. But yes, but Gil takes over, and I think that's just it's a great stepping point. He knows what they're trying to build in Chatham-Kent, so he's going to just continue that on this year.
Absolutely. Let's move on to, well, first of all, let's stay with Chatham Kent because they have also made some signings as well. Mitsuki Fukuda we have touched on before. We also have our favorite name to say in the IBL, Torin. It's not Vasilenak, it's Vasilenik. And I got
Yes,
burned
it's
by that a
Vasilinic.
couple of times because one person was saying it's one way, one person was saying the other way, and
Yep. We're
I
still
said
blaming Dom.
yeah, I said to
We're
heck
blaming
with
Dom.
the one day, and I went and asked the man himself, and he was able to provide me with the proper pronunciation. So
Yeah.
Vasilinic is the proper
Yeah.
pronunciation. And again, if I still
Exactly.
butchered it, Corin, reach out to us, iblinsidepitch@gmail.com, and we'll get that corrected for you in
We'll get
time
it
of the
fixed. Yeah.
IBL regular season. This is why we do these now. That's so we can course correct by the
Yep.
time the season comes along.
By the time the season comes along, we'll be old pros and be like, okay, everybody be texting us. How do you say that guy's name? Like this. Or hopefully, somebody will get on their butts better than you and I, and we'll get the pronunciation guide together league wide, and it'll be accessible for all the broadcasters and announcers and et cetera, et cetera. And
Well,
Alexa, add that to the list.
well, the fact of the matter is, like, we'll try to get everybody together at some point, and maybe we'll have a round table or something. But I can tell you from a Kitchener perspective, what I'm planning to do, and this is a little inside baseball for you all as well, is I've been able to help out via the Panthers throughout this transition on the broadcast side and helping out providing some of the content onto the website. My plan is to have the guys at the ballpark the one day, and we're gonna do that whole video. I'm
Media
gonna
day.
start and stop. Just say your name. Say your name. That's
Just say your
so
name.
we know how to pronounce it properly. How you do want it
Perfect.
pronounced? I don't care if
Yep.
you say I don't care how you pronounce it. I'm going to ask the follow-up question. Well, how do your parents pronounce it?
Yeah. Well, how would your parents like us to pronounce it? Because you're not going to tell us, because it's not you that's going to worry, but it's mom and dad and grandma and grandpa at home. They're like, Connor Morrow, for a key example. The poor guy's stats have been wrong the whole time he's been in the league. Because whoever put in the point streak originally put the O in there instead of an E. And Connor.
Poor guy. But that's at least the plan, and I will provide a phonetic guide as well for at least the Kitchener point of view, and I'm hoping everybody else in the league is able to do the exact same and help a buddy out, help Neil out, that's so we can put a guide
Yep.
together for all of us broadcasters. That's so
Exactly.
we can do it right, and we can do right by not only the fans but every organization within the league.
No question.
Let's move on to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Again, they've been a little bit quiet as of late. What do you make of the Toronto Maple Leafs? Again, I feel like very similar to Barry, where they made a lot of some of their moves early on in the transaction period.
Yeah, they made a lot of. Seems like a lot of the younger guys have committed right now, but it's the core that still hasn't come back. The Maras, as far as that, the Castaldo factor too. He's very close to some really pretty big milestones too. So I think he's going to come back even just for those ones, for the sake of those numbers. But as far as that stuff goes, he hasn't been announced yet. Of course, they did resign Justin Richardson recently. Spencer Ross, of course, went from Kitchener to Toronto. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be definitely a different look in Toronto for sure.
I will definitely be looking forward to how that shapes out as the season moves along. I would imagine the Maras will sign at some point from now until then.
Yeah, I would think so. I think it's just a matter of they're just trying to see what else is going on. But these guys, They always keep it. They keep it. Toronto's always traditionally been probably the last ones to announce the roster too. So it's just been like Jack used to be synonymous for dropping 30 cards on the league secretary's hand, probably like 3 or 4 days before he was required to do that, just because he'd like to keep the cards close to him, as far as that stuff goes.
The Lou Lamorello of the IBL.
Yeah, we miss Jack some days.
Yeah, we miss you, buddy. Let's move on to the eighth team. And by no means do I call them the eighth team as being an eighth place team because the lineup sure as heck isn't looking like that. They're looking like a
Yeah.
top team in the IBL. The Hamilton Cardinals, who you have a close relationship with. What's the latest out of Hamilton?
Hamilton is. I think Eric hasn't blown my phone up this week, so I think we're okay.
You've been
I
actually been
think
able to
we're
get some
okay.
sleep.
Yeah, he's been pretty quiet. He hasn't said much. I sent him a text message this afternoon because I was working on a graphic for the 75th day, and it's like, okay, all I got back was a nice. I didn't get anything else back, so I think we're okay.
And maybe he's on a tropical
But I
vacation
think that
somewhere.
he might be. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's just like, yeah, I think he's done all the heavy lifting right now. I think it's just now getting these guys into the guys that are up here back into the swing of things, back into the cages, back in everything else, getting ready for the season. And of course, he's looking for billets like everybody else is for a lot of these imports and guys that are from out of town. Just get them some housing and everything else. So all feel a member of the Cardinals family as soon as possible.
Down to the ninth team in the in our order here, which is in no particular order, like I said before.
No,
The Brantford Red Sox, another team that's been very, very quiet, is I think again, pretty understandably a little bit more focused on who's actually going to be owning the team come 2025's season.
well, exactly. I think you're going to hear an announcement very. I would think either this week or next week. I think it's going to be very very because you want to get that going. You got to give whoever takes over at least enough leeway time to a contact the players they still have on your protected list. B start putting together a coaching staff. C filling these holes, and then they also got to get some tickets out there. They got to get everything else going. They got to start making their presence known in the Brantford area too.
And that's going to be easier said than done with how much time is left from now until the regular season. And I posed the question on the last episode. Can they get this together in time to really catch up to a lot of these teams who, again, as we're seeing day by day, that there's a reason why we're doing this every couple of weeks now, Neil. It feels like
Oh,
everybody
exactly.
is making so many different moves.
I think everybody else is just like, okay, we've got to get our rosters in place. We've got to sell our tickets. We've got to promote it to our area as far as, okay, we're here. Here's our team, what our team looking like. Love to have you buy season tickets. But it's just like, okay, how are you going to do this? It's just as far as like, I'm worried. I'm very concerned about Brantford just because how things are. It's just, I'm feeling like they got, poor whoever takes it over is going to be stuck behind the 8 ball probably the whole season here. They're going to be flying by the seat of their pants.
It's going to be very, very tough in Brantford from now until the beginning of the regular season. But again, we will see how things play out from now and 75 days from the release of this episode and what we will have on, I believe, May 11th, you said?
And May 11th, Mother's Day.
Well, that's pretty much all I got. Anything else you'd like to add in?
I think that was it for this week. As far as like, I know, we're looking forward to next week. We're going to have Ryan Rio on the show, and he'll definitely impart some knowledge on us. We'll have some good questions, and of course, last year I sat down with him and I told him off stream, it's like, yeah, you guys are probably one of the two teams I'm looking at as far as being in the finals, and lo and behold, there they were.
Yeah, and they did the job and they definitely put a ring on it, if you will.
They definitely did. They did.
Just want to send out a quick congratulations as well to the new class of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. They will be inducted later on in the summer, including Joey Bats, Eric Bedard, Greg Hamilton, Amanda Assay, uh, yeah, Jerry Snyder, and Arlene Noga. I believe I got all six that are going to be inducted on
Yep.
June 7th in St. Mary's. And, I stand by this. I know that they have their schedule that they have for their induction weekend. It's always done
Yep.
very well. But now with the integration of the IBL All-Star game, do we see possibly a merger of these two weekends coming together down the line, or you
It's
feel
it's
like
it's
some
really
have to
hard.
move the other?
It's hard because of how our schedule works and how that we're so laden into. If we played more weekday games, it would probably be easier to take a weekend off. But we just don't. It's just not how the schedule works, not how the league's ever worked. They kind of focus on you might get a local game on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, like a 45-minute drive maximum, but you're not going to get the Chatham Kents going to Barrie on a Tuesday night. So it's just not going to happen. So it's just like until we can figure that out. I think I would love to see it happen. So we're playing a game in St. Mary's, but right now I don't think it is. But I think the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame is definitely going to be doing a lot more with the league very soon. Not allowed to say anything else. I'm not told anything else. But yeah, it's just I think you're going to see a more heightened presence of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame within the league very shortly here.
That is music to my ears. Well, Neil, thanks again for this latest episode, and always appreciate your insight. And well, we thank you all for joining us on the IBL Inside Pitch. He's Neil. I'm Mark. Ryan Rio joins the program next week. We'll see you then.